Hello guys, welcome back to Mallikaarjun channel. This is Mallikarjun. So in this my install and configure grid infrastructure and then rack database course where we have seen all these 13 steps of Oracle, starting with the Oracle VirtualBox installation and VEL and DNS setup and cloning the VM, creating ASM set disk and rack Clusterware pre-checks and Clusterware installation and Oracle home installation, and then creating our rack database and then doing some post checks. So all this we have seen it, the complete grid infrastructure package installation as well as rack database creation. So in this today's session I'm going to go over how to deinstall when you configure your Oracle database or a rack database or the grid infrastructure clusterware, how you can deinstall it and deconfigure it. So that I'm going to cover it in this today's session. If you see this particular the MOS document, grid infrastructure installation guide, and there's the chapter 6, how to modify or deinstall your Oracle grid infrastructure. So you can go through all this, the theoretical part, when to deinstall your Oracle home, and then what are the consideration. So all this they given all the brief description if you just go through it. And I'm directly jumping into removing Clusterware and then Oracle ASM in this today's session. So before I just started with this today's session, if you are new to my channel, always go back to YouTube and then search for Malik034, and then please do subscribe. If you like my videos, always share, like and comment. And if you missed out my previous videos, you can always refer it back in my YouTube channel Malik034. Okay, so let's get started with the today's session. I have two nodes here, like VL6 node 1 and VL6 node 2. So, and I have my clusterware setup here, grep smon. So the ASM1 is running here and the ASM2 is running on this node 2. And if I do my CRSCTL stat resource -t, you can see all the resources are online and everything is up and running. CRSCTL check CRS, everything is online. So now I'm going to deinstall this entire grid infrastructure clusterware. So right now I do not have any database running here. So I already deleted all my databases in my previous session. So in this session I'm going to deinstall my entire ASM clusterware and the Oracle ASM. So you can use any of this tool. You can use this from the deinstall tool from your grid infrastructure home, or you can download the separate deinstall tool, or you can use the response file. There are many options. So the best of widget option is you can go to your the grid infrastructure, the inside grid infrastructure you have your deinstall tool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my grid infrastructure home, and there is a deinstall folder, and this is the directory, and then if you can see inside that there's a deinstall file. So you have to be outside of your the grid infrastructure home directory, and you just need to run that deinstall script. See, this means you must not be logged on as a root user to run this deinstallation script. You have to log in as your grid infrastructure user and then run this particular script. Let me go back. Xhost plus su grid. Right, I'm going to run this particular deinstall now here in this tab. You can see this one, checking for the prerequisites file and bootstrapping. The deinstallation steps are very simple. You just need to run this particular single script. You should not be inside your grid infrastructure home. You should be outside of your grid infrastructure home. This is my grid infrastructure home, so I'm at the grid user home directory, and I'm running this complete the grid deinstallation path. That will verify everything, and then that will start my deinstallation script. You can see Oracle deconfig tool start, deconfig check operation start. It has started, right? You can see all this. It will verify the Oracle home location and the Oracle grid infrastructure for a cluster, and the base location and the inventory, and checking existence of Oracle grid infrastructure and the cluster nodes. You can see node 1 and node 2, node 1 and node 2, and active remote node is node 2 because I'm running it from node 1. Checking for sufficient temp space for both the nodes. The install check configuration, and this is a trace file. You can refer this log file, and network configuration check starts here, and this is the temp directory. It is started all the loggings, and the specify the listener rack listener. So if you have all the listeners, you have to mention whatever the rack listener, database listeners, all you have to mention. I have default listener, that is rack listener, so I'm just going with the default. Network configuration check config end, and ASM check configuration start. Now it is started with the ASM checks, and you can see here ASM automatic storage management, again same diagnostic directory and disk group, and the disks where it created disk group will be dropped. You can see you can read this particular message. The deconfiguration ASM will drop all the disk group and their content at cleanup time. This will affect the database and SFS that use this ASM instance. Do you want to retain the existing disk group, or if any of the information detected is incorrect, you can modify entering yes. Do you want to modify the information? It basically says it is going to drop this disk group and delete all the data from your disks, so that permanently your data is going to delete. If you want to proceed, yes, and you can continue. If you don't want to proceed and you want to retain data, and then you can you can modify data. So I'll just go with a no because I don't want to retain any of the data, right? That is deconfiguration database check configuration is end here, and deconfiguration check operation end here, and deconfiguration check operation summary. This is all going to be my summary. You can read all this, and I'm not going to read it right now. Do you want to continue? You can see Oracle grid infrastructure database will be deconfigured from this grid infrastructure home. Do you want to continue? Yes. Deconfiguration clean operation starts. You can see database deconfiguration trace file. You can find it using this particular trace file. You can see, you can read all this summary, and then you will get to know what it says, right? The grid infrastructure home and the cluster nodes, that is node 1 and node 2, and the remote node, that is node 2, because I'm running it from node 1. Node 1 is my local node, and this is part of the deinstallation Oracle home on this local node and remote node, and the selected home. This is my 12c grid home, and this is my inventory, and this is my rack listener, and the ASM instance will be deconfigured for this Oracle home. The grid infrastructure management database was found in this grid infrastructure home, right? ASM instance has it found it, and the grid infrastructure management database, that is MGMT database. MGMT database is running from this particular grid home, and that will be deconfigured from this grid infrastructure home. Do you want to continue? Yes. So I'm first doing the management database deconfiguration, and then proceeding with the grid infrastructure deinstallation. Deconfiguration operation trace file. You can tail this particular log file. I'm going to tail it here in this. You can see the management database, it is deinstalling right now, but it will delete my management database. You can see here, like when I did ps-ef grep smon, ASM instance is a default cluster ASM, and we have the management database concept in 12.2, right? So it is first deinstalling this management database, and then followed by it will start with this ASM deconfiguration. You can see all this, the deconfiguration of my management database is going on, right? So it has done the deconfiguration of database deconfiguration has done, and the ASM deconfiguration trace file is this one, and ASM, okay, it is running. ASM clean configuration starts, ASM clean configuration end, network configuration clean config start here, and these are the trace files. Deconfiguration of rack listeners, and this is successfully deconfigured, and deconfiguration of naming method, so successfully done. Deconfiguration of local net service names configured files on this on the all the nodes done. Deconfiguration of directory usage configuration file on all the nodes done. Deconfiguration of backup files on all the nodes done. The network configuration has been cleaned up successfully. Network configuration cleanup end here, right? So this is clear indication of clear message it will give you here. And if I can go back to my others tab and check for ps-grep smon, You can see that management database was gone now. We have left with only ASM and the clusterware. Okay, so if you can see here, the deconfiguration command and parallel on all the nodes, and run the following command as a root user or the administrator on this node 2. I'm going to run this one in the node 2. Node 2 already opened here. My root session is opened here. It's going on. And then once that is done, run the following command as a root user on the node 1. So I'm going to run it this one on the node 1 and then press enter. What happened here? It is still going on. You can always check this one, tail-f. You can see, right, it is validating all the nodes, and then starting with the service config node apps. It will do it. See, you can see it is removing all these nodes, all the cluster services. You can see it is executing all these commands: srctl remove vip, srctl remove vip. Let it go on. And what happened? The deconfig below can be executed in parallel. Okay, this is the same, because without running this command I just gave enter. That is why now I'm rerunning those. Until you run that one, it will not be proceeding further. See, it asked me to run this particular command on node 1 and this particular command on node 2, and then press enter after here. I did not run and just gave enter, and it is still did not proceed it further. It is just waiting for me to run it. So if I give enter also, it will prompt the same message back here. Anyway, so I ran it here on the node. You can see this particular command. It has starting shutting down my clusterware high availability on this node 2. It is all Oracle high availability service has been stopped here. And if you see this particular log file, it is executing all this sfs root uninstall, sfs root uninstall -t2. It will basically clean up everything, right? So uninstall tfa. Okay, removing Oracle tfa collector, and if you check in the log, you can find out what is the particular command it is running. The clusterware home tfa bin uninstall tfa silent mode. You can see all this. If you can see, I'm doing this uninstall deinstallation process from node 1, and then first it is asking us to do uninstallation process on the node 2, and then once that is done, and come back to node 1 and run this deinstallation script with the hyphen last node on that the first node where you started your deinstallation. You can see the final message: removing Oracle TFA done, successfully removed TFA, successfully deconfigured Oracle clusterware stack on this node. If you can see this log also, it'll remove all the directories. I'll just cancel it. This is done, and then I'll go back to the node 1, and this is a command. I ran it on node 2 and run the following command as a root user or the administrator user on the node 1. So I'm going to run this one, and you can see this is the last node. It says last node because I have only 2 cluster nodes. Node 2 is already done. I'm running it on node 1 now as a root user. Okay, so it started, and this is a trace file. You can open one more terminal here. What I'll do, I'll minimize and I'll open one more terminal, and then I can tail this particular log file here, tail-f. You can see srctl remove cve cvu-f. Yeah, and then this is the temp directory. srctl remove scan listener, srctl stop scan. And the meantime, if I can go back to node 2 and then check for ps-ef grep smon, you won't find any services. If I do d.win, you won't find any services. So if you can check etc vara tab, so vara tab itself, you don't find it. It has removed everything. You can see no vara tab. So if you can go back q01, this is the grid home. it is going to clean up. Once the node 1 also removed, it will clean up all this grid infrastructure home. So right now we are seeing this grid home on this node 2, but let's see after a minute what happens to this grid infrastructure home. Stop scan, remove scan is done. Srctl config node apps, Srctl stop node apps on this local node. Again, you can see all the services, all the VIPs, network, scan, subnets, everything it is going to, deinstall. Once this root script is done here, then I will go back to the previous tab and then I'll enter here. You can see fresh enter after you finish running the above command. This is on the remote node, that is node 2, and this is on the local node, that is on node 1. So this remote node that is on node 2 is done. So on the local node that is on the node 1, it is going on right now here, and this is the log file. It is now running crctl stop crs-f. You can see deconfiguration of Oracle ASM or the shared file system storage, stopping clusterware, everything you can read from this log file. Yep, it started with the cluster services are stopped here and executing crctl start crs in exclusive mode, and then it is going to the drop delete my clusterware. So meantime, if I can go to my YouTube channel, and then I wanted to show you all the playlist whatever I created so far. Okay, go to YouTube and search for Malik 034, and then go to my particular channel and go to this particular playlist. You will see all the playlist, database playlist, ASM playlist, and patching playlist, and backup and recovery, the Linux and Oracle Rack Real Application Cluster, Data Guard, and Oracle interview questions and answer, database cloning and migrations, and Rack internals Real Application Cluster, and database administration tutorial, GI install and configuration with Rack, Exadata complete understanding, DBA tips, and Exadata bundle patching, and 12c EBS, and database security and audit, Exadata networking, and performance tuning. All this course, if you can go to any particular playlist. For example, if I go to this particular ASM playlist, and I have ordered all the recordings in a sequential order. You can refer all this the videos in this sequential order. You will understand more, any of the playlist. If you are willing to go, get a more idea on that, you can always refer that. Okay, so let's come here. So what happened now? The clusterware has stopped, and then it has found my voting disk, and voting disk located. It found my one voting disk because it's an external disk group, and delete crctl delete css vote disk data. You can see it deleted my successfully deleted my voting disk, and then it has asmcs silent delete local asm disk group data. Now everything it is deleting it here, and it is removing all the disks. You can see smca delete local asm disk group data, asm instant deleted successfully. Check this particular file for more details. ASM deconfiguration trace file. This is the trace file, and this is the start, and this is the end. And ASM instance successfully deleted, and shutting down Oracle High Availability Services. Oracle High Availability Service has been stopped here. Okay, ACFS root uninstall, so it's going on. Few more post checks it will do. Okay, the meantime, again, if I go back to YouTube channel and check for the
Hello everyone, welcome.
playlist, you can refer any of this playlist. So I already arranged all the videos in a sequential order, and that will help for ease of understanding. So you can refer any of this playlist. Okay, it started removing Oracle Trace File Analyzer TFA, and if I can check the log file, you can see node 1 TFA home bin uninstall TFA silent mode, on this local node CRS home, and this is my cluster home. Successfully removed Oracle trace file analyzer, TFA removed, successfully removed. Okay, so if I can go back here, now it started with this removing Oracle trace file is done, successfully removed TFA, successfully deconfigured Oracle Clusterware stack on this node. Ensure that GPNP profile data under this particular is deleted for the reconfiguration. If you want to use this particular two nodes again for the configuration, you have to make sure that GPNP profile directory has deleted. Right. So now I'll go back to the original tab here. I ran these two commands on node 2 and node 1. I'm just giving enter here now. See, now I gave enter here. Now it is proceeding further. Earlier it prompted the same two command without running this command. I just enter, but again it has prompted the same commands. Now this time when I entered, it gave me the deconfig clean operation is completed here. Successfully deconfiguration of Oracle grid infrastructure management database is done, and ASM instance was deconfigured successfully from the Oracle home, and the listener is also successfully deconfigured. Oracle Clusterware stopped and successfully deconfigured on this node 2 and node 1. Oracle Clusterware has stopped and deconfigured successfully, and this is a log file and this is the temp directory. And then deconfiguration is done here. Deinstall check operation summary, and this is the log file. You can see enter summary, and this is the cleanup start here, right? Setting up this local node and remote node, and these are the cluster nodes. CRS home true, and it started with the deinstallation, preparing for the deinstallation. And you can read all this, you'll get to know. You can see delete directory, this one on the local node, and this one on the local node. Local node is done, and you can see delete this Oracle home from the central inventory is done, and directory got deleted, inventory got deleted, and failed to delete the directory, this one, either user do not have permission to delete this. See, this particular home is owned by Oracle user, so that's why it is unable to delete. That you can ignore it. And the Oracle base directory user and app Oracle will not be removed. User and app Oracle will not be, base directory will not be removed, because you can see this particular directory is owned by Oracle, and my grid user is grid, that does not have permission to remove this one. So this one we can do it manually, not an issue. And you can see here the grid home removed from central inventory from remote node is done, and the grid home is removed, and the Ora inventory is removed, and Oracle base will not be removed, because again same thing, there also we have Oracle home, and Oracle universal installer cleanup was successful. And then this is the directory. You can see the log file, and you can see deinstallation cleanup operation summary. It is given summary here, what all it deleted, and it is asking us to run this particular command, remove this etc Ora inventory. This all you can run it on the both the nodes. I can run it from node 1 and node 2, so I'm going to run this from this node 1. I'm going to run it as a root user. Run it here, done. And the other command, run it here, done. Oh, so many files, that's the directory. Okay, done. Then view the permission. So in this base directory I need to remove that Oracle home manually. So then I will do the same thing on the remote node. I'll just copy this one, go to node 2, and as a root user, run, yes, and go back and copy this particular directory, yes. Okay, done. So now if I can go back, and what it's asking, it is unable to clean up this base directory. If I go inside this base directory, and I can see these all are owned by Oracle, so it is unable to delete this particular log file. So I'm going to remove it manually. rm-rf star. So Oracle user does not have permission, the grid user does not have permission, so I'll go to root user cd ll rm-rf star. Done. I'll go to node 2 as well, go ll rm-rf star. Done. So that's it. Like, this is the simplest and easiest method to deconfigure your clusterware. So now we are done with this deconfiguration, and if you want to quickly check your grid disk, so that you can check it using Oracle ASM. Oracle ASM list disks. You can see all your disks are preserved and data has been cleaned up, so you can reuse all these disks and you can reconfigure your clusterware again back on these two nodes. Okay, so I think this is pretty informative, guys. So I will come up with the next topic on the grid infrastructure administration. Stay tuned, and thank you very much. Thank you.